So we've been having conversation the last couple of weeks about things. If Jesus was to walk into our churches today, He would probably change. He would undo them. We talked about indifference and the fact that many of us go through our walk and we kind of have an approach to faith. We talked about hypocrisy last week, which was a short message that pretty much punched everybody, including your pastor, right square in the nose. Today we're going to talk about spiritual pride. I've been guilty of the pride thing a few times in my short ministry career. My biggest one is I am, when it comes to academics, I can be a bit arrogant. In every other area of my life, I kind of doubt myself, but in academics, I don't have any doubts. It's just, I can get what I want to get. So I wrote a paper for Valor Christian College once. And I wrote it on Saturday morning. It was due Saturday night. And we had stuff to do, so I blew through it at about Mach 43. And I think, well, this is theology class. I'm a pastor. I can do theology. Didn't double check it. Didn't do anything with it. Just turned to the end. Guess what I got? D-. For a guy with a 4.0 GPA, that was a kick in the groin. That was not good. I was not happy with myself. But it taught me something, that even something you're great at or you think you're pretty good at, you still need to apply yourself a little bit. And I didn't. I was too proud of my academic prowess to actually check my own work. Or have my wife, who's a very good proofreader with me, at least look at it real quick. Because I had stuff to do that was more important, which wasn't more important. Proverbs 16:18 says it best. He says, pride becomes before the fall. Pride, when you think you're all of that. And as we get going, most of us, one of the most loving things that we can do is to look at someone in the eye and tell them the truth. If you have friends that are afraid to tell you the truth, they're not really friends. And I think God's going to do that to all of us today, even your pastor a little bit. So we're going to look at Luke 18 today. We're going to be focusing on 9 through 14, but I'm going to drive Lisa nuts back there because I'm going to break it up into little bite-sized pieces, and then we're going to talk about it. So I'm going to start in verse 9, and it says this. And he also told this parable, were some who were trusted themselves that they were righteous and viewed others with contempt. There are people in the church today that hold themselves up here. And if somebody walks in with track marks in their arms, or somebody walks in with a bad haircut, or somebody walks in and they're not quite dressed for church, we feel a certain way. I've seen it. I have actually seen in churches where a deacon of the church walked up and told the young lady, you're not dressed appropriately for this building, and made her leave. I'm telling you, if that ever happens here, you don't have to worry about that lady. You have to worry about me. But that's beside the point, because they don't have to be fixed before they get here. God will fix them. Don't worry about that. But we have confidence and trust and faith in ourselves often. We have a pride that causes us, unfortunately, to look down on others. It affects our relationship with Christ. And it reflects our ability to minister to other people. It's really hard to minister to somebody you think you're better than. And you go to verse 10, it says this. 2 men went up to the temple to pray. One a Pharisee, the other a tax collector. Y'all know this story. 2 men went to the temple to pray. Sounds like the start of a really bad Christian joke. But they go into this place where it's the representation of God's presence on earth. And they're walking into the visible presence of God. And then you got the Pharisee. The Pharisee is respected. He knows all 613 laws inside and out. He's a pastor. Maybe he's a church leader. The tax collector himself is equivalent to mafia. Equivalent to a corrupt politician. Equivalent to your local drug dealer. The dude couldn't be a witness in a court of law because he was not considered truthful. He was not considered reliable. And if you think about it, it looks pretty straightforward. Think about Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker. There's nothing, if you don't watch Star Wars, I'm so sorry, I'll pray for you. But Darth Vader's the bad guy. If you didn't know, Luke Skywalker's the good guy. How about this? Who watches The Office or watched The Office? Jim and Dwight. Polar opposites. How about this? Who's seen Stranger Things? The Upside Down Monster. The monster of the Upside Down. How about Chuck Norris and everyone else? Because you know Chuck Norris is bad, supposedly. See, the Pharisee stood, and this is verse 11, he stood and was praying this to himself. God, I thank you that I am not like other people, like swindlers and unjust adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week, and I pay tithes on all that I get. I thank God that I'm not like that person. Have any of us ever prayed that prayer in a moment of selfishness where we're really mad at somebody? They've really done us dirty, and you say, man, I sure thank God I'm not like him. He's got something coming at the end of his days, and I hope I'm there to watch it. And don't tell me you haven't thought that. I had a young lady, I had to fight this really hard. We helped her forever, and when our time we couldn't help her any longer, she started slandering the heck out of me. What do you do with that? I pray God saves her soul, is what I pray. I mean, you're thinking, I follow all the religious rules. I do all the right things. I mean, I do everything. I'm good. You say something like, I'm better than everyone else around me. I do more stuff. I mean, I'm comparatively good. How many people in the world today are going to hell thinking they're a good person? They don't know Jesus. Thank you, God, that I'm not like those people over there. And he wasn't completely wrong. He had a lot to be proud of. Just knowing the 613 laws is impressive. The fact that he tithed is impressive. But instead of realizing that he had a gift, this gift was from God. He saw himself as the gift to God. We do too. I'll be honest, I worked at Impact Church forever, and I've told you honestly, I have to be very, very careful or I lose God in the ministry sometimes. And I did everything in that church, and I felt like that church would never survive without me. Humbling experience, they're doing better without me than when I was there. Thank God I'm not like them guys. Because spiritual pride promises this stuff, and it's all false. It gives you self-sufficiency, thinks that you got it all together. I got this, God. I don't need anyone. I have it all together to do it right, and I'm the good person. If you ever find me a Christian soul that says I got it all together, I'm going to show you a Christian soul that's probably more messed up than the rest of us. We all have to fight this. How about self-importance? I am valuable. I live in the right neighborhoods. I run something that could not run without me. I have the right label on my purse. I am the glue that holds my group together. My group of people, because we don't have life groups here yet. I said yet. I am valuable. Tell you how God humbled me real quick. And I said, I am valuable to Him. He says, Kevin, the church existed for more than 2,000 years without you. It will survive for 2,000 years when you're gone. Gee, thanks for the humbling experience. But if you think you're all that, the church has been around for a long time. It'll still be here. When we're pushing up flowers, if we decide to walk away because somebody makes us mad and we take our toys and run. How about self-exaltation? Exaltation. I am better. Everybody look at me. I'm great. My car has the right kind of stuff on it. Please tell me I'm great. In the church, all of this is prevalent. I see it in some, not everyone. In my 6 churches that I've been in my ministry, in my church life since I was a baby Christian, I've seen a lot of this. People that thought that the world revolved around them in the church. And I'm here to tell you that the world revolves around Jesus. If you think you're all that, you're not. I love you. And I'll probably tell you you're all of that, just to give you some encouragement. But remember that. Because I want to tell you the inward directed emotion that leads to outward directed actions. We fall into the trap of thinking that my ultimate value is based on what I do, on my gifts, on how I follow the rules, and how I'm not like the other guy. We are not that different from the Pharisees if you really want to think about it. We're guilty of being prideful at times and putting a misplaced value on ourselves. Think about this. Parents, they look at their kids and then they see kids out in public and they say, my kids would never do that. And you know darn well they just did it 15 minutes ago. You see the guy flip you off on the highway and you're like, well, that's so-and-so. I'd never do that. But you just did it 30 miles ago. Or you're going to do it 20 miles down the road when somebody cuts you off. My favorite phrase is, Jesus loves you, but I'm struggling. That's what I use. You can use it too. It's not copyrighted. See, we get misplaced value. We start comparing ourselves. It's easier to lift yourself up when you're pushing someone else down. It's easy to say, I don't need God. I'm good. I'm better than those people over there. I'm better than most Christians. How about attention seeking? We like to look at me's. Look around during worship, see who's paying attention, see who's formatting their Instagram post, who's watching TikTok, having a slice of pizza, and we're so focused on what's going around us, we don't focus on what's important. And then what's important is not even the man standing up here. It's what happened up there. I've been doing this pastor thing for almost 6 years now, which blows my mind. If you told me I'd been a pastor for 6 years a few years ago, I'd be like, yeah, right, okay. And I said, most of us really don't struggle with the pride aspect of this. We don't have this, most of us don't have this situation where everybody thinks we're great. We're trying to convince God and others ourselves that we're okay. But we have a reverse pride. I call it false humility, which is a form of pride. You can't receive a compliment. I used to be this guy. You would say, I love your shoes, Carter. Yeah, they're kind of a mess, but whatever. Nice sermon. Yeah, but I could do so much better. You can't receive a compliment. You could never lift your hands in worship or post a Bible verse or serve in church leadership because God can't use me. I can't share my faith at work. They know what I used to be. Or we say, woe to me, I deserve better. The value is still based on me when I do this. I'm either thinking I'm better than others, or I think that I'm looking for confirmation. Always looking for something. So what would Jesus undo in this situation? Spiritual pride from both sides. They're both wrong. See, Jesus shows a different way in verse 13 here when he says, but the tax collector standing at some distance away was even unwilling to lift his eyes to heaven, but was beating his breast saying, God be merciful to me, the sinner. There's a big difference between the Pharisee and the tax collector here. He's standing at a distance. He says, I can't even go into that church. The roof might fall in if I walk in there. God may strike this building down with lightning. If people knew what I did, what I used to be, what I used to say about the church, they'd lose their minds. But he stands at this distance. He couldn't even lift his head to worship. And his prayer is straight up confession. Lord, I'm a hot mess. Please be merciful on me. Because he acknowledged who God was. He didn't try to rationalize or anything. Why? Because he knew without God's intervention, his life was hopeless. He understood that no matter how hard he tried, he'd come up short. There's no way to make it right. In our own strength, there's no way to do it in our own strength. I have tried. You cannot do this walk on your own. If you're trying to do it on your own, all you're going to be is frustrated and bitter. I promise. And then somebody at church is going to look at you somewhat funny, not mean anything, and you're going to get mad, and you're going to say, I was church hurt when nothing was ever done to you, walk out the door and never come back because someone looked at you the wrong way when you were in your feels because you weren't trusting God to start with. Anybody see the problem other than me? Not all church hurt is church hurt, my friends. Sometimes well-meaning, loving people, sometimes our tactics are not great. Sometimes we're having a bad day too. Sometimes our family is sick too. Sometimes we're at the end of our wits too. We're people, we're not perfect. But let's skip over to verse 14. It says, I tell you that this man went to his house justified rather than the other. That's the Pharisee. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, but he who humbles himself will be exalted. Jesus just turned the tables. His hearers going, what? Because he said the tax collector went home justified and the Pharisee did not. Well, that's not what religious law told me. While that Pharisee was full of spiritual pride, the tax collector emptied himself with a humble heart. He had an accurate picture of his own spiritual condition. He had an accurate picture of many of our spiritual conditions. Some of you sitting right here today, you should be encouraged that you're right where Jesus wants you in this moment. You say, but I want so much more. Sometimes it's not time. I told some people this in my life, my young adults group today. I struggled with this. I helped build Impact Church. So when they gave it to a 24-year-old man, when he told me for years I was going to be taking that church over, I was hurt. I got in my feels. Well, I do this, and I do this, and I do this, and I did this, and I did this, and I did this. And then I was holding on, hoping I'd get to go back someday when God had already closed that door, but I was trying to go back through the door. And I was banging on the door and getting bruises on my forehead. And I'm sitting in prayer one day, whining, because that's what I was doing. And he said something really, really simple in my prayer. Put it in my mind. He says, until you forget Impact, I can't move you on. Until you leave Impact with your heart, I can't move you on. I didn't want to hear that, by the way. But if that never happens, if I keep holding on to that, I'm convinced I wouldn't be standing here. Sometimes we've got to trust Jesus knows what he's doing. Back to the message. When we empty ourselves, we are in perfect position to be filled by God's grace. Now, if that doesn't make you a little bit, I don't know what's wrong with you. You should almost get a little Pentecostal shuffle going. So here's the challenge if you're suffering from spiritual pride. Either pole of it. My friends, there's no silver bullet. This is not an overnight fix most of the time. There's no red or blue pill like in The Matrix. Great movie, by the way. It's not like it's more like peeling back the layers of an onion. And there will be tears if you start peeling back those layers. You know that. There will be some tears, there will be some heartache, but guess what? I didn't know how to fix my spiritual pride issue. Jesus had to give me a roadmap because I was in my feels, my friends. Some of you have been there. Some of you are there now. You have a child that's gone off the rails. You've tried everything and that child is still off the rails and you don't know how to help. You look at your bank account, your financial situation, and it's a hot mess. And you don't know how the heck I'm going to dig myself out of this hole. Your marriage has been having troubles for years. You guys have tried everything, and you don't know how to make it work, much less make it great. My friends, when we empty ourselves, we're in the perfect position to be used and filled by God. I don't know how many of us, that no matter how much like I act like the Pharisee, like I have it all together, like I've got it all worked out, like I'm self-sufficient, I'm self-important, and I'm exalting myself. But the truth is the Pharisee and the tax collector are really no different. Their actions are different, but they're no different. See, we're standing at a distance, unable to look up. We're beating our chest. We're saying, God, be merciful on us. That's the position we take when we decide, hey, I got to have Jesus because nothing else is working. If these people in these situations I taught would hit their knees and say, Lord, I can't do it, but I know you can. I didn't fix our marriage problems. Wendy didn't fix our marriage problems. Jesus fixed our marriage problems. I didn't save myself. Jesus saved me. You can't do it all on your own. You were never meant to do it all on your own. I've never read in here, other than work out your salvation through fear and trembling, but everywhere else in here says, trust me. Trust God. Trust Jesus. But we're still trying to do it ourselves. We need to quit standing at the distance. The good news is that He has done more than you and I could ever deserve or earn. Because the goodness of God He will take your spectacular or your ordinary and He'll make it spectacular. He will take your, wow. Just gotta let Him. See, God wants to do something in you personally, before He ever does anything through you. You can't feed others if you don't feed yourself first. It's a realization I've gotten in the last few months. I always tell my wife who puts herself second, she'll make sure everybody eats before she eats, make everybody sleeps before she sleeps, make everybody has clothes before. And I kept telling her, baby, if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. But I was forgetting that if I don't have this relationship straightened out, I'm no good to any of y'all. I'm no good. If your relationship here is broken, your relationships around you are probably going to be broken too. You have to take care of yourself before you can take care of others. You have to let God take care of you before He asks you to take care of others. So pride, He wants to do something in you before He does something through you. Because when you empty yourself, you have a humble heart, you're in perfect position to be used. But as long as you're holding on to stuff, you're in no position to be used. My friends, I'll tell you, if you're not pushing up flowers, God has called you to do something. He's equipped you to do something. And He's equipped you to do something. He's going to be glorified through what He calls you to do. Be that a stay-at-home parent, be that a construction worker, a farm worker, a nurse, owner of a tire shop, farmer. He's got something. But He's got to work in you first before He'll do anything through you. Pride is about my glory, my friends. It's about what's in it for me. But when you have humility, it's about God's glory. Not my will, but your will. So ask this about my glory. Or is this God's glory in your life? This is, if you got emotion, fear, pride, insecurity, indecision, before I finally got it, I remember I walked in the Christian walk for quite a while before it clicked. And I'll be honest, I'm a slow learner at times. I worried more about how I dressed than what God was giving me. I worried about what people thought of my singing, which is marginal to be the best. Matthew 5:16 says this, "In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." Pride is about my glory. Humility is about God's glory. We have to stop being so full of ourselves to understand that there is room for what we need most, God. It's time to stop playing games, my friends. I keep reading Revelation, and I don't know why I keep being drawn to Revelation. I probably read it 5 times in the last 2 months. Something's about to break. Read the papers. You ain't got time to mess around anymore. And we have a community full of people that are headed for a devil's hell. We don't got time to mess around anymore. We have to get us right so we can get the community right. I want you to understand this right here. The God of the universe, the dude that hung the stars, the God who is here in this building now wants one thing. For His church, that's us, that's other churches, to get rid of the indifference, to get rid of the hypocrisy that's driving people from the church in droves, and get rid of the spiritual pride. Those things are crippling. If they're in your life, they're crippling your walk. They're crippling the church. The Church International. It's keeping you from all that God has for you. And maybe, just maybe, it is time to do what I've been preaching all day. I've been preaching this since day one in this church. Maybe it's time to just be real. Real with ourselves. Real with God. And real with one another.